Thanks for tuning in to the 12th episode of Bantu Book Review. If you are listening for the first time, welcome. And if you have listened before, welcome back. So let's get started with the emotionally intelligent word of the day. After reading our story this week, I was feeling wistful, an adjective meaning having or showing a feeling of vague or regretful longing. Y'all know the feeling when the nostalgia takes over. You take a walk down memory lane and you think to yourself, and you're like, damn, where did I go wrong? That, among so many other thoughts. But for me, our story this week was a reminder of love and a reminder that when you love, no matter what happens, no matter what the outcome, good or bad, whether it was the love story of a lifetime or it was tumultuous, the love never leaves you. That feeling, that longing, that wondering. So I just had to take a deep sigh after the story this week, and let's jump right into hate it or love it. So our story is called Forbidden Fruit by Roshani Chokshi. Roshni Chokshi. Her name is Roshni Chokshi, I'm sure. I listened to her tell us how to pronounce her name because I wanted to do it right, and then I still did it wrong. Roshni Chokshi, Forbidden Fruit. And it is a story that is a part of an anthology which is called A Thousand Beginnings and Endings, and it's a collection of 15 retellings of Asian myths and legends. So I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of the stories in this collection. I read the first one, Forbidden Fruit, and that's the one that we're talking about today. Forbidden Fruit is Roshni's take on a Filipino folktale, and she tells this story with such poetic prose that it immediately pulled me in. If I could have literally fallen into the pages of this story, I would have. It's a story of longing and of hope and of love, and it's also a cautionary tale because it reinforces a lesson that so many of us learned from young, which is do not touch and do not even think about taking things that do not belong to you. So that's the forbidden part, right? Um, and there's this analogy that though the fruit of another person may be tempting and ripe, it may be beautiful, enticing, all the things that make you really want it, it ain't yours. And when it's forbidden, you need to leave it alone. Um, so there's a really dope twist to this story and to this classic lesson and these words of wisdom, which is the fact that the fruit are born of a mountain, and the mountain is a spirit, and the spirit is personified as a woman, and not just any woman, a beautiful woman. She's gorgeous, and this woman is symbolic of the earth, and she's not to be conquered or possessed. So imagine if you fell in love with the earth, and imagine that it possessed you. And imagine that it was personified as your lover and friend to be cared for and cherished. Imagine the earth. This woman was your muse. And you, a curious, helpless mortal being, had the honor of loving her and the great honor of being loved by her. So, this was a beautiful story, great story, 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. Highly recommended. It's only a few pages long, so it won't take you more than a few minutes to read the story. Um, but the reason I wanted to talk about this story is because it had some really good lessons that I wanted to share. The first I've already mentioned. The first you already done heard from your mama and your mama's mama. Don't touch nothing that's not yours. Um, but the other lesson that really resonated with me was that sometimes when we give what is in our hearts, it is much more than what is asked of us. And sometimes that can backfire, but the giving is still important. So give your love, y'all. Give your love, receive your love. Don't be scorned. Just cherish it. Cherish it. Do right by you, do right by others. I really, really love this story. So, shout outs. I want to shout out the editors of this story, Ellen O and Elsie Chapman. And these two ladies are um, really, really dope creators themselves. They have their own works aside from this compilation and anthology. So I want to share some words with you from the editors themselves. They say, we longed for nuance and subtlety and layers, the embedded truths about our culture that, more often than not, can only come from within. That's why this anthology is so important to us. Here, diasporic Asians reimagine their favorite Asian myths and legends from their own viewpoints. We would have been overjoyed to have found this analogy, filled with characters with skin and hair and names like ours, in our beloved libraries. It's the book that was missing in our lives for far too long. So I just wanted to shout them out because what a message. That's something that we all need, representation, and so they did something about it. They have an organization called We Need Diverse Books, and the website is diversebooks.org. So check it out. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization, grassroots, for children's book lovers that advocates essential changes in the publishing industry to produce and promote literature that reflects and honors the lives of all young people. So, shout out to representation. Shout out to these ladies. It really matters so much that we tell our own stories in our own words. And what a pleasure it was to read this story and read some of the other stories that are so inspiring and affirming, and more importantly, stories that are for us and by us. With that being said, I also want to shout out the We Read 2 app created by Kaya Thomas. I shouted out this initiative before. It's a directory of children and teen books written by authors of color, and her website is weread2.com. So go ahead, visit her website, and download the app. It has so many books featured on the app, and they're really, really good recommendations for younger readers. That's all for this week. Short and sweet. There are so many more stories and 1,000 beginnings and endings that I'll be reviewing. I'll really be reviewing my favorite ones over the course of the next few weeks. So maybe not all of them, maybe all of them. I don't know. We'll see. But in the meantime, tweet me your takeaways, lessons learned, testimonies, rants, random musings. Send me your book list at Bantu Book Review. And I will see you all next week.